Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Donna Rockin, and today we're going to talk about writing a winning business plan and what you need to know. All the mystery should be taken out by the end of this session, and there is my contact information on the last slide. So let's begin. So that's me. I've been around since 1988. I'm not sure that my picture is showing up, but I have pretty white hair, so I've been around the block a long time, and I've helped many, many entrepreneurs launch and grow their business. So it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. So to begin with, this is always a real challenge when you're staring at that white sheet of paper. So I'd like to recommend that you begin with a great idea that solves a real problem. And the real problem doesn't have to be a cure for cancer or how to allow us to live on Mars. The real problem you solve is that it can be a viable business in a neighborhood that doesn't have one. So it doesn't matter if Chicagoland has 3,000 dry cleaners. I have no idea how many they have, but say they have 3,000. If there's none within a 3 or 4 or 5 block radius of where you want to open up your dry cleaning shop, it can be a great solution to a real problem because people just like to take the shortest distance to go to a dry cleaner. The same thing can be for a liquor store, but a liquor store is a little more complicated to open up in the city, and rightfully so. You have to make sure that you're not near schools and hospitals and churches. So, but if there's none in your neighborhood for whatever it is, that can solve a real problem. And it can also be an app that helps you solve a real problem. I wish somebody would straighten out some of the grocery store apps that we use because I don't think they're all that good. Anyhow, start with the business model canvas by Strategizer. And it's the canvas, which I'll show you a picture of in a couple slides, is part of a book called The Business Model Generation by Strategizer, by Osterwalder and Pinu. I guess he's French. Do not buy the ebook. You're entrepreneurs. I want you to save money. Go to the library and get the book. Buy a used copy on Amazon, but do not get the ebook because the first sentence in the ebook says, "This book is better as a book." So do not buy the ebook. And this is what it looks like. So when you go to the library, you'll know what you're looking for. And what it does is it helps you organize your thoughts so that you get into a position where you can start writing your business plan. And one of the handouts I've given to the city of Chicago is a questionnaire. And if you answer all the questions in complete sentences, a few of the questions may not apply. Like where's your store located? If it's an app, that is unimportant. But if you answer the questions in complete thoughts, you wind up with a business plan. So this is the business model generation. These are the 9 categories on the business model canvas: key partners, key activities, key resources, your value proposition. What are you offering? What is your secret sauce? The channels, how you're going to get your product or service to market, the customer segments you're going to serve, and you always want to target your customer segments. The biggest segment is the one you should go after first, followed by the second business segment, followed by the third business segment. And then the cost structure, how much is it going to take you to produce or provide your service or your product? And service and product here can be used interchangeably because some of you might be making products and some of you might be offering services. Then your revenue streams. And sometimes the retail customer isn't your only revenue stream. You can sell from business to business. Say you make a dry pancake batter mix. You can sell it in the grocery stores on the shelf. You can sell it to restaurants or school cafeterias where they buy it in a 5-gallon drum. And you can also sell your pancake mix to the armed services. So you can have more than one stream of revenue. And then the last column is customer relationships. You know, how are you related to these customers? Are they heavy users? Are they light users? And this is what the canvas actually looks like. And the key partners are on the left, and the revenue streams are way at the bottom on the right. And I've read different theories of thought. Some say start at the left, fill it out to the right. Others say start at the right, fill it out to the left. I don't think it makes much of a difference. But one of the things you want to do, and it tells you in the book, put all your answers on little sticky notes, because sometimes you need to move them around. You think it's an activity and it's really a resource, or you think it's one thing and it's really something else. So if they're on sticky notes, you can just move it around and you don't have to rewrite everything. And I've also sent, this is a copywritten material. I did not produce it, but I have given a copy of it also to BACP. All right, so now what is a business plan? And a business plan is a written document that clearly defines the goals of a startup or an existing business. And honestly, it's a living document. And whether you've been in business 1 year, 5 years, you're about to open up, or you've been in business 20 years, every 12 to 18 to 24 months, you ought to revisit your business plan and rewrite it and update it, because things will have changed. Sometimes you think your business is one business when you start out, and it actually turns out that it's something else, because all of your customers really want a service that you thought was not that big, and you only provided it because it was a courtesy and it was cheap. But you find out that's what they really want. It's sort of like McDonald's offered fries because they go with hamburgers and their other sandwiches, but really their fries are so popular they can stand alone on their own. So you should, that's how they came out with different sizes of fries. Really, even soft drinks. When McDonald's first introduced itself, they had an 8-ounce Coke and a 12-ounce Coke. You couldn't get a Coke for 32 ounces. So sometimes your customers create what the products and services are by demand that you're going to offer. So what's included? Handful of items: your executive summary, your business description, your product or service description, your marketing plan, your operations and management plan, and most important, the financial plan, how you're going to make money. And when we get to that towards the end of the lecture this afternoon, it's okay if you show a banker that you're not going to make money for several months while you start up. It's much more believable, and the banker will understand these people know what they're talking about, because you're not going to start making money maybe as soon as you put the key in the door, or you're not going to make enough to pay all your bills. So these are what's included. And the executive summary, although it comes first, you really should write it last. So when you start writing your business plan, put the headline on a piece of paper that says executive summary, and then keep going, because you'll write a much more concise and accurate executive summary if you write it at the end of this process versus if you write it at the beginning. And it's just a few paragraphs. It doesn't have to be 1 or 2. It can be 3 or 4, but it's a short description, and it describes what makes your business unique. And it might be a new technology. It might be, I mean, who would have thought a few years ago how many flavored waters, ice water and zero water and water with vitamins, and each one of those, like water with vitamins, you never really thought about it. You needed vitamins, you took a vitamin pill. So what makes your product unique? What makes it stand out? And even if you both make the same product, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, let's face it, we all have a preference. Will I drink a Pepsi if that's all the restaurant serves? Sure, but I prefer Coca-Cola because I think it has a different taste. So include in your executive summary your product or service description, the target market, who's going to be your heaviest user and why, and your overall goals and objectives for your business. Describe, for the business description, describe the business in detail and describe the name and location of the business, the legal structure, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The legal structure is you can have a sole proprietorship where it's just you and you own the whole business. You can have a simple partnership where you or two and a few of your friends open up a business and you each share in it equally. You know, you all put in $10,000 and you're all equal owners. But that's a little risky in this litigious society. So I am not an attorney, I am not an accountant, but you should talk to your lawyer and your attorney to figure out, should I be an LLC? Should I be a subchapter S corporation? Big giant corporations like IBM and Coca-Cola and Xerox, those are called C Corps. And it has to do with the amount of stock you have and the management of the business. So, but they give you legal protection. If you were to ever get sued, they could only take the assets of the business. Where if you have a sole proprietorship or a simple partnership, they can come after your personal assets, and you certainly don't want to jeopardize your house and your spouse's well-being and the future of your kids. So talk to an accountant or a lawyer. And by the way, if you make a mistake when you first start out and you say, oh, well, you know, there's no chance I'm going to get sued. And, you know, if somebody didn't like the job, like if I have the dry cleaner and I ruin somebody's suit, I could just pay him for it. You know, it wouldn't be such a loss and that would probably make it okay. If you pick something for the structure of your business, you can change it. You know, down the road, 2, 3 years, your accountant and your lawyer can help you change the structure of your business. You just can't do it every year because that's a red flag and you're likely to get audited by the IRS. But if you do it once in a blue moon because you made a mistake and now you're growing and now you need investors and you want to become a C Corp, you can change it. And then most importantly, why will your business succeed? Because that's what a banker wants to see. That's even what a landlord wants to see. Oftentimes to lease a commercial property, they want to see a business plan because they want to make sure you're going to be in business for the whole term of the lease and be able to pay the rent. So what is your product or service? Completely describe it. Summarize the key technology or the key concept or that the business is based on, and also what features and benefits does your product or service have. And when you talk about features and benefit, think when you're writing FAB, feature, advantage, benefit. So if it's a rain jacket with a hood, the feature is it has a hood and it's, you know, water repellent, and the benefits really are that it keeps you dry. So feature, advantage, benefit. How does your product or service uniquely solve or satisfy your customers' needs? And remember, I talked about the uniqueness of your business idea. It's called a unique selling proposition, USP for short, but it's unique selling proposition. And oftentimes the uniqueness is that there's none in your neighborhood and you are the first one to open it up. Just think about how many great pizza joints there are in Chicago. But if there's none in your neighborhood, you know, a lot of times people, they sort of did the best during the pandemic because they were used to carry out. And describe why a customer would buy from your business. So it's, you know, the quality of your product, that you stand behind it, that if it's a service and you clean gutters, that you show up on time, you don't make the customer wait. So describe why a customer would buy from you. And then how to build a marketing plan. Create a product or service that solves a consumer problem. And the bigger the problem, the better it is, because if the problem is really huge, then you only need a teeny tiny bit of the market share to make money all day long. And identify the niche or positioning. And the niche or positioning is good, better, best. So you might think that a Lexus is best and good is a Buick, and or better is a Buick and good is a Chevy. So it would be Chevy, Buick, Lexus, or Chevy, Buick, BMW. Create an appealing image or package. Packaging can really go a long way to improve the desirability of your product. Just think of cup of soup or mac and cheese that comes in little microwave cups, or ramen cup of noodles. You know, the packaging can do an incredible amount to enhance the product offering itself. But sometimes if you're a real estate agent, you are the package. And if any of you have ever bought a home or a condo, you know the agent shows up, they're dressed to the nines, they have a beautiful car, they're going to drive you around till they find your dream house. And by showing up in a fancy car and looking impeccably dressed, they're conveying to you, I am incredibly successful at my job, and I'm going to find you your dream home. So sometimes you are the package. And just think, like at Target, they all wear red shirts, and at Best Buy, they wear blue shirts. So sometimes, you know, the person is the package. And develop a promotional or advertising plan. Promotional plans are more immediately turn into sales, ka-ching, ka-ching, where an advertising plan is more about building brand awareness. So maybe regularly advertising or putting doorknob, you know, hangers on the doorknobs in the neighborhood, advertising a new restaurants, because you want to build awareness that they know you're there. And then promotion is how to get them to add on, you know, fries or the extra large drink or supersize it. That's more of a promotional technique. And then price your products or services. You've got to make sure that you understand that you're charging enough to cover all your expenses and make a profit. And then selling your products or services. You have to be aware of how to relieve your inventory, keep track of what you're sold, not only so that you plan that you always have inventory available to sell, but also to make Uncle Sam happy and you keep track of your sales. Develop a marketing plan, define and detail your target market. When somebody would come to me and they'd say, oh, everybody's my target audience. I wanted to throw, for many years, I ran an entrepreneurship center, first at a nonprofit and then at Illinois Institute of Technology. And I would want to throw them out of the office if they told me everybody is their target office, because their market, they're not. A certain specific type of customer is going to be a much heavier user. And the heavier users are your most attractive clients because they buy the most amount of your product or service. So, all right, so here's an example. I live in a high rise. I don't have a balcony. I do not need a barbecue pit. You know, no matter how cheap a barbecue is, I have no place to put it. I don't need a lawnmower. I don't have any grass. So in that case, you know, a homeowner or a first-time homeowner would be your target audience because they don't own them barbecue yet. They don't own a lawnmower and they need a lawnmower. And maybe down the road, they'll buy a more deluxe lawnmower. They'll go from a push mower to an electric mower, or they'll go from a push mower to an electric mower to one of those ones you sit on if their property is big. But no matter how cheap a lawnmower is, I do not need one. And then analyze your competition. And I've included a competitive analysis in the handouts. And your direct competitors are, if I say, who's a direct competitor to Coca-Cola? Well, the obvious choice is Pepsi. But indirect and alternative competitors are also any other soft drink, any other carbonated soft drink, 7-Up, Sprite, ginger ale, store brand, signature brand from Jewel of their soda pop, or Big K from Kroger. And then other indirect products would be milk, juice, any kind of beverage that quenches thirst, the vitamin waters and the different types of flavored soda waters. So those would be indirect: milk, juice. And then what is the positioning in your product? Good, better, best, on par with the competition, a little bit above the competition, or way above the competition. Think cosmetics. L'Oreal, I'm trying to think of, L'Oreal and Lancome owns L'Oreal. So L'Oreal is the cosmetic that most women would buy in the drugstore or Target or Ulta. But then if you want to spend 3 or 4 times as much for mascara, you would buy Lancome. Is it really different? I'm not so sure. I wear L'Oreal because it's a fraction of the cost, but that's good, better, best. There probably isn't that much difference between the L'Oreal and the Lancome, but the packaging is so much more deluxe than the Lancome that you feel like you're getting a better product, but it's probably pretty much the same thing. And define the product packaging. Is it a twin pack, buy one, get one free? Personally, I get very mad at Jewel because I don't mind if it's buy one, get one free. I live in a condo, but I can usually find room for 2 of them. But when Jewel Food wants me to buy 2 6-packs of pop at $7 a piece, I checked the price yesterday, and they give me 2 free. What do I need with 4 6-packs of Coke? Even if I buy different flavors, it's just me and my husband. 24 bottles of 16-ounce bottles of pop, ridiculous. So think about how they sucker you into buying more. And where is your business located? And is the location really important? A lot of times, say you're a caterer, a lot of times, or a wedding photographer, you will go to the client to find out the specifics of what they need done. So that, you might have a commercial kitchen as a caterer, but people don't come to it. The same way, if you're a photographer, you might run the business out of your basement. Now everything's digital, so it's not like you have to even develop the film. But, you do all your bookkeeping and record keeping in the basement, and then you go on the job and take the weddings and the bar mitzvahs and the baptisms. So the location is not important at all. But sometimes it is important. And remember, this is the city of Chicago. I was born and raised here. I love it to pieces. But parking can be a real issue. And so you either have to work with your alderman and get one of those signs that say 15-minute parking with flashing lights so that people can come in and pick up the food for carry out or get their dry cleaning, or you need to be in a strip mall or some kind of mall or a neighborhood where everybody walks to you and they don't care about parking but it's critical. Don't overlook parking. And sometimes, like I said, if you always go to the client, doesn't matter. I once helped a woman start a business as an estate planner, and she was a lovely woman. And I told her a big selling feature is that she could go into seniors' homes and they wouldn't feel threatened because she was a woman, she looked like she could be their daughter, and they would let her in the house, and they didn't have to come to an office, which was a plus if you're a senior and you can't get around that easily. So, think about location, location, location. Now, here is a case where location, location, location is important. That little green arrow, that is one of the most popular Dunkin' Donuts, and it's in Aurora. and it's on Eola, and the other street is North Aurora Road. So this is Eola, and North Aurora Road is the cross street. And it's one of, because traffic's so heavy and people get stopped at red lights, it's easy to get in and out of, you can go in one way and snake out the other way. So it's very popular. All right, so this is important. Sometimes location does matter, sometimes not at all. This was a company that failed right away because where that little marker that says A is, it was a retail store in the back of an industrial park where you couldn't see it and there was no signage. If you're going to be in an industrial park and you make a product that then you ship to stores and mail order, deliver to clients, that's fine. But if you expect foot traffic and you're in the back of an industrial park where nobody sees you, forget about it. They went out of business, almost overnight. Another point about signage, especially when you're in city streets and traffic is heavy, it's important and you have to work with your alderman, know your alderman, love your alderman. If you can have signage that you can read horizontally and vertically. So you might put the name of your business horizontally on an awning and then have a sign that sticks out that goes vertically where you can see that it's a Lou Malnati's or a Dunkin' Donuts, etc. So signage can be very, very important. How will you price your product? And this is where you really need to understand your cost of goods sold and how much it really takes you between raw materials, labor, to produce your product or service, because you do not want to give away the store. And you have to make sure that you make enough to cover all your expenses and include a profit. And then how does your price compare to competitors and indirect competitors? Are you on par with the competition, lower than the competition, or higher than the competition? And this is my personal thought. I don't mind if you're on par with the competition or you're higher than the competition. Maybe you're a restaurant and you're serving the same bowl of pasta, but you have white tablecloths. You have real silverware. You have a little candle on the table, so you can get more for the same bowl of pasta. And I don't mind if you're a neighborhood joint and the pasta is sort of the same price as it is in other neighborhood Italian restaurants. But I don't recommend that you're lower than the competition, because if you're lower than the competition, they can lower their price, you can lower your price, they lower that. So nobody's making money. So I do not personally recommend being lower than the competition. It's one thing if you want to have a very good value on a day. Say you are a restaurant and nobody comes in on a Wednesday, especially on the Wednesday in the summer when it's hot. And so if you wanted to give away a pizza at a very, very good price, knowing that you'll make money on the soft drinks or the beer or the wine, that's not a bad proposition, especially since you're bringing people in because you're paying rent 30 or 31 days a month, whether people come in or they don't. So you might as well have them come in and buy something, even if they don't feel like they want a super heavy, Italian meal. And I'm not knocking Italian restaurants. I love Italian food. It's one of my favorite. Um, but you might not want a really heavy lasagna when it's 99 degrees outside, where for a good priced pizza and a beer might sound a lot more desirable to you. And can you be profitable at your chosen price? Because you can. A lot of times, think about when Jewel Foods or Mariano's, they offer like a ridiculous price to get you in the store because they know they may give you strawberries or raspberries or something for 99 cents, but they know that very few people can come in for one sale item only. So if Jewel has a great item, few on sale, and it gets you in there, but then you buy the paper towels, the bathroom tissue, the meat, the cereal, the coffee, etc., they're not going to lose money on you, even if they give you raspberries for 99 cents a pipe. How will you promote or advertise your product or service? And this for a small business can be a big challenge. So you should rely on foot traffic and word of mouth. You should also try to do things in your community where they publish your name. So maybe you want to support a little league team and the name of your business is on the back of all their jerseys. Or you want to have a day like Jersey Mike's where you give some portion of the sales to a favorite local charity or the Chicago Food Depository. So think about how you can, and Facebook is good for your business, and e-newsletters are good for your business because it's a very cost-effective way to be in front of your customers and giving them ideas. I mean, maybe you want to tell them how to make the Italian dressing for the restaurant, or other things, or how to plant herbs in their windowsill. But think about cost-effective ways and low-cost ways that you can promote your product or service. And how will you reach your target audience? A mass advertising is usually TVs, billboards, magazines, and targeted media is more direct mail, local radio. Think WeatherTech. WeatherTech did their whole campaign on WBBM 105.9 on your dial during drive time. So when it was raining and snowing and you were bringing all that stuff in your car, WeatherTech was telling you, protect the interior of your car with our fabulous products. So, radio is more local, local newspapers are more local. There's those val packs sometimes that you get in the mail. There's door hangers where you can pay a high school kid to put, you can't put them in the mailbox, but you can put them on the door handle of a single family home or an apartment building. There's regional sections you can buy that are more cost effective of national magazines. And then don't overlook Google AdWords and, like I said, e-newsletter and Facebook. Facebook is so successful for Lou Malnati's, our own lovely Chicago pizzeria, that they actually do all of their hiring now by posting jobs on Facebook because they feel like the people who follow them and on Facebook, they understand the core family values of Lou Malnati's. So it's some very cost-effective ways that you can promote your product. And Lou Malnati's has a ton of, a Halloween prize, send in your picture of your kid or your pet in a costume, and what they're giving away is 1 or 2 pizzas. So it's very cost-effective. Developing a market plan. This is important. Answer of physical distribution. How will your customers, where will they expect to find your product? Are they going to find your product at a retail location? Are they only going to find it online? Are they going to find it on Etsy if you're making something that's handmade? And how will you distribute? So where will they look for it? And will it be there where they are most likely to look for it? And how will you get it distributed? They have those, is it ShipShake that you can, they do all your fulfillment for you, or you're going to use UPS or FedEx Ground. And now a lot of times when you order a handful of items from Amazon, they ask you if you can wait a day or two, and they give you, I don't know, 90 cents or something ridiculous because they want to use fewer boxes and they'll put your goods together in the same box. And a lot of times you can wait those extra 2 or 3 days because you're not getting something, that you need right away. But how are you going to ship or deliver your product? Or are you going to use DoorDash or one of those other delivery systems? And then do you know who your suppliers will be? And most important, if you are making something where you actually have to make something, whether it's at a restaurant or you're making baby cradles, that you're going to sell on Amazon, or you're making t-shirts or anything where you have physical goods that you're going to turn into something else, have multiple suppliers. First of all, it will give you better pricing because they know they're bidding against somebody else. But more importantly, time will come through no fault of your own. They will have a fire, they will have a flood. And you don't want to have only one supplier, because then if he's flooded out and they can't ship for a couple weeks, or their inventory was ruined till they make new, you want to have more than one supplier. Resource requirements. Now, this is important. What technology requirements do you need? Do you need special equipment? If you're going to have a store like a fast food joint or a restaurant, there's something called a POS terminal where it keeps track of every item, whether you sell a root beer or a Coke, or you sell the small fry or a large fry. So do you need a POS, it's point of sale terminal? Do you need special equipment? Do you need, nowadays, a lot of restaurants, they take your order on a smartphone or a tablet. Do you need special software? Do accounting software, uh, Intuit or QuickBooks or, Peachtree? Is there internet connectivity? Even hospitals now, doctors use the internet to help with diagnoses. So what technical requirements do you need? What personnel requirements? Do you need part-time, full-time, contract? Contract is something, a person, they're called a 1099, because you pay them and they're responsible for paying both halves of Social Security. If you work for somebody else, I don't know, it's like about 7.65% you pay and the employer pays that, and that goes to Social Security and unemployment and all those things. But if it's a contractor, there are very specific rules so that you do not get in trouble with the Department of Labor and the IRS. And so you can Google 1099 contractor test. And I forget if you need to answer no to virtually all the questions or yes to all the questions. But basically, if it's a very mixed bag, that means they're really an employee and not a contractor. And if they're an employee, you better be paying Social Security and unemployment and the other things that, time off, etc. Are you going to need to do background checks? And you might, especially, I love a business of carpet cleaning, and you can learn from the pros because you can go work for Stanley Steamer or one of the other giant companies, and then open up your own business. Because if you clean carpets well and you show up on time and have a good price, but you might have to do background checks and bonding and insurance, because in case your people accidentally break a vase or a little figurine, you want to be insured, and you want to make sure that they don't steal the little figurine. So think about if you need background checks. You also might need background checks if it's a cash business and they're going to be taking cash from your customers. Nowadays, especially after COVID, even restaurants now, so many of them only take credit cards or digital payments, Venmo or that type of thing. And then the question is, when is somebody really a contractor? That's when is somebody really a 1099? So Google 1099 questionnaire, and that will help you solve that, because it's about how much control. Your accountant is typically a 1099 contractor because he comes and looks at your books when he wants to. He brings his own equipment when he wants, his own software, his own computer, and you probably give him nothing but a space in the conference room for a few hours while he's checking your books. So that's really a contractor, the same way a lawyer is. But there's been a lot of debate whether their contractors are really employees. When you tell them what to wear, how to do it, even with Uber drivers, are they really independent? Or, if you make them put that lift sign in their car, Are they a contractor? Not so sure. Also, resource requirements. What other resources does the business need? Do you need a website? Some of the websites are just placeholders. The services you offer, the hours of operation, call for an appointment or get a free quote. They don't have to have a zillion pages with different products and services described in detail. But some do have to be if it's retail and there's colors and sizes and different items. Think about how many items there is on the Wayfair website or Land's End website. Printed materials. And really, that's a good thing to think about Land's End. When you order from Land's End, they send you a catalog. Maybe for something like you just ordered, but maybe it's something for the house or for the man in your life. But they still use a lot of print because they know people like to look through and thumb through a catalog. Leave behinds a lot of times are if you sell a professional service and you can't close the client right on the spot, you want them to think about, prepaying for their funeral or getting their gutters clean or getting their house powered washed. So that's a leave behind. One of the best leave behinds is a magnet with your name, phone number, email address, etc. If you are an appliance repairman, because then when the washer goes clunk or the dryer stops drying, guess what? It's right on the side of the refrigerator or the washer, and you know exactly who to call. And then do you need physical office space? Because you may or may not. Like I said, if you're a photographer, maybe you want to get out of the house, so you do rent a small space, but a lot of times you can do it in your basement, especially if nobody comes to your place of business. There are specific rules, so do check with your alderman and the city of Chicago. There are certain businesses where people come and go, like a hairdresser, etc., where you can't have people coming in and out of your house day and night. So some things are against the rules in Chicagoland. But that's where the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection can help you because they have really knowledgeable people that you can go and ask questions about what's allowable in the city of Chicago and what isn't. And external requirements. Do you need an accountant, a lawyer, a cleaning service for the business? Do you need an insurance agent? So here are some of the resource requirements that you might need. Cloud computing, sometimes it's much easier to have Office 365 in the cloud and then you pay an annual fee, but then it's updated and every year you have the latest software. And you can always get it if you're on the road, but you store your estimates up in the cloud. Then when you're in between or driving between appointments and one of the clients who you left a proposal with says, I'm going to have you paint my house, then you can call and easily get and see the quote that you gave. QuickBooks is just one of the products. There's other software, but QuickBooks is pretty popular and affordable. Grasshopper is one of those services where if they call your office and you're not there, they'll call your cell. If you're not at the cell, they'll call your house. The customer doesn't know where they're calling. It does forward it automatically to different places. There's Regis offices, those have a general reception area, and then you buy a little cubby hole, but you have shared copiers and other things, so it's pretty easy to work if you want to start a service business on a small scale. And then WeWork is another sort of rental agency. They have maybe open desks and small little offices that you can rent. Do you need iPads, smartphones? GoDaddy or Namecheap are names of companies that host websites, that give you a website name and host a website. Vistaprint was started by a small business owner who didn't like the fact that it cost so much to print business cards and stationery and envelopes. And what Vistaprint does is it's called gang printing, and they fill up giant sheets of business cards. And then they print 500 sheets and then they cut them. And so there might be, 100 names on the 500 sheets that they've just printed, and then they cut them into 100 different pieces for different customers. But that was started. It was a brilliant guy, and he just noticed the need for the small business community. Now, two things you should have, they're both free. One is called Google My Business. And so if somebody Googles, that's when you come up when you say dry cleaner near me or liquor store near me or pizzeria near me, that Google My Business. And in 2023, Apple started the same thing that's called Apple Business Connect. And these are free services where you tell them the hours you're open, where you're located, a phone number, a link to your website, those types of things. And then think about how you're going to take payment. Is it going to be cash? Is it going to be credit? Even now, a lot of laundromats have special cards where you put money on the card and then you just tap it to use the washer or the dryer. Is it just going to be a regular credit card? Are you going to use Stripe? Stripe is a digital payment processing. They take a hit. PayPal, Google or Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Zelle or Venmo, when their corporate accounts for Zelle or Venmo, they all take a little cut from whatever payment you're processing. And then who is going to be in charge of your business? This is important. Do you have a partner? And are you Mr. Outside, you do the selling, but then you have Mr. Inside who takes care of all the billing and the paperwork and the taxes and the filing of reports, etc. So who will be in charge of day-to-day operations? What qualifications or expertise do you have to run this business? And if you're listening to this, you might have a full-time job, but you want to start a side hustle, or maybe you're thinking, I want to leave the, corporate America and start my own business and own it. And sometimes what you do as a hobby can be a perfect skill for starting a business. If you love to bake, now Chicago has special rules about selling food, but you can open up a bakery and you have all the expertise you need. I mean, you might have to learn how to make 500 cookies instead of 100 cookies, but it's a skill that you could adapt to. Or maybe you always did Little League and then you decide, you volunteered, you had 3 kids and you always did Little League. And then you decide, oh, I want to have a camp and teach kids how to improve their baseball skills. So think about if it was just a hobby that you can turn into a business. And when will you need to add employees? When you have your first real employee, you need workman's comp. And we'll talk about insurance more in a minute. But you can also hire your kids, and they might be better at setting up a website or, taking care of messages or tracking things down because they're more maybe computer literate than you are. So don't negate the idea of using your teenage kids, especially if they're 16 or older. And also, if they're 16 or older, you can pay them a salary and you don't have to give them an allowance. So think about, can you, and they can be your nephews or nieces too. They don't have to be your direct children. But think about it because they might be more computer literate than you are. And when will you need to add real employees? And when you do have your first real employee is when you do need workman's comp. And what salaries will you pay? I am here to inform you that the city of Chicago, July 1, just increased the minimum hourly wage. It's a little unusual, but it's $16.60. Sort of reminds me of the day when I worked for Marshall Field and they used to pay me $2.12 because after 8 hours, it rounded to an even quarter. I thought it was bizarre, but $16.60 for hourly wages, $12.62 for tipped workers like waitresses and maybe delivery people, And it's $16.50 if you have a youth or subsidized training program. It's only a dime difference. I don't know if that's such a big deal, but maybe the city of Chicago has special training programs where you can sign up and they give you part of the money and then you pay part of it. So it's $16.50. Cook County, those prices, the $16.60 and $12.62, just went into effect July 1 of this year. But in January 1 of this year, Cook County, because I don't know where you're all dialing in from, Cook County is $15 an hour and $9 an hour for tipped workers. And then will you need to give your employees training? Honestly, if they have to work a point of sale cash register, I found the one job I had where I had to do it, I thought it was incredibly complicated because I only did it once a week and I didn't do it often enough to really remember how to do it. So I was always a little challenged. Will you give drug tests? We talked about background checks or bond employees. Sometimes you have to make sure they have a valid driver's license if they're going to be your pizza delivery person. Who will manage the daily and long-term finances? Is it going to be you? Are you going to hire a bookkeeper, even a part-time bookkeeper? Are you going to hire, an accountant? Put your spouse to work. So think about who's going to keep track of day-to-day finances and how you're going to process and record sales, because you do have to record them so the IRS gets a fair shake. And does your business have special local or federal regulations? Let me say this. In Illinois, although they're trying to change it, we only charge sales tax on real goods. And it's different for food than it is for clothes and other things. But we only, if it's a real product, we charge sales tax. That's why, but we don't on labor or certain services like the dentist, or when you go to the doctor or the eye doctor and you read, those little letters, is it darker now or is it darker now? We don't charge sales tax on services. But that's why when you take your car to the mechanic, the bill is broken into two parts. The parts that they put into your car and sales tax on that. And then the labor for the person who worked on your car and replaced the tires or the brakes or the shock absorbers. And also, even if you're just a simple gas station and do limited repair work, when you do an oil change in the city, you have to be able to collect the oil, and then there's special regulations on how you get rid of the oil. So you have to figure out if there are special or local federal regulations. The same thing with the city of Chicago. They have a thing called the cottage food industry, but that's really designed for like little kids who set up a lemonade stand outside their, houses. And otherwise, you really need to make food in a commercial kitchen. And so you can't cook in the house and then deliver it. Now, if you're a caterer and you cook in your host's home, that's permitted because you're cooking for your host and they're eating the food and thereby, it's a different rule, but you really need to discuss it with somebody who knows the specific regulations for your industry. Who will be in charge of inventory and inventory control measures so that you want to make sure your employees aren't walking out with the steaks or the shoes. So you really have to have inventory control methods where you know what's coming in and what's going out. Even if it's a restaurant, you need to know that 4 cups of flour is going into the cake, etc. And then what loss prevention policies are in place. A lot of times when you work in a big retail store, they make you come in with like a clear purse so that you can't walk out with merchandise, or they make sure they have a guard when you leave and they look in your purse or your packages. So be aware that a lot of these margins are pretty slim and you have to be able to control losses. All right, we did talk a little bit about this. You can change the type of entity if you make a mistake. You just can't do it every year. but we talked about sole proprietor, simple partnership. Subchapter S is a limited sort of corporation for smaller companies, but it gives you the protection that they can only sue the business and not take your personal assets. A limited liability company and a corporation, a C corp, but that's another lecture. If you have a partnership agreement, make sure, if you have a partner rather, make sure you have a partnership agreement and do it while the honeymoon is on. It could be your brother, your spouse. It can be your best childhood friend. You met him in kindergarten and you've been friends ever since. But make sure you have a partnership agreement that uses a third-party arbitrator, because if you each own 50% and you can't decide, you want to take on industrial clients, the partner doesn't, you get to present your case to a third-party independent arbitrator. And after listening to all the evidence, they sort of decide what they think is best for the business, and then you go along with it. But the other thing in a partnership agreement is a buy-sell agreement. And you want to do this when you're in love with your partner and you're starting out, and even if it's a spouse, because even if it's a spouse, if the spouse had kids from another marriage and you don't have a buy-sell agreement in place, if anything happens to the spouse, they get hit by a truck on the Dan Ryan and succumb to the accident, you want to know how to buy out the rest of the family so that if it's two friends that have grown up since kindergarten, you might love the friend, you might not be crazy about the spouse. So you want to have in writing how you buy each other out. If one changes their mind and wants to move to Australia, or gets married and the spouse is in Italy, you want to know well in advance how you're going to buy each other out if that's what you decide, or if the partner dies prematurely. What insurances do you need? You need general liability. If you have a real storefront, you need general liability so that even if the mailman slips and falls on a patch of ice going in to deliver your mail, you have liability insurance. Workman's comp is when you have your first employee. Errors and omissions, this is more like if you're an architect or an attorney, it protects you that if you made a mistake, you have this special insurance that will cover the loss. It's sort of like malpractice insurance, but for really accountants and lawyers and architects. But it's the same principle as malpractice. And then key employee. Key employee is insurance you don't need when you first start out, but as the business grows and becomes more and more profitable and more lucrative, key employee says, I'm paying an insurance policy. It's sort of like life insurance, but not for a spouse, it's for an employee. So that saying it's two partners, even if they've set it up as a corporation, and one stays in and does all the bookkeeping and all the invoicing and takes care of all the taxes and all the employees, the hiring, the firing, blah, 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 finding the benefits. And the other employee is the rainmaker. They do all the selling. If the person who sells does get hit by a truck, this insurance policy gives you money to hire contract employees to do the job till you can replace them. And, it helps with the cost, so that if they would have been earning, $250,000, you have money to pay for several months, so that then you can do a search and find a comparable employee to replace the person who was killed. Two other really big mistakes is underestimating your startup costs, because it usually takes 3 times the amount of money and 3 times the amount of time, just because, as they go to renovate a commercial space, they might find out, oh, there's something wrong with the basement or the drainage or the water, or it's harder to put in a handicapped accessible bathroom. So it usually takes 3 times, this is my personal opinion, 3 times the amount of money and 3 times the amount of time. And also the length, another big mistake is underestimating the length of the sales cycle. because very often it takes much longer than you anticipate, especially if it's a really big, expensive service or good, like if you're installing swimming pools or, you're doing big, massive corporate IT jobs, etc. Have you prepared a break-even analysis? Now, a break-even analysis is when total costs equal total revenues. So you're not making a profit yet, but you're not bleeding cash. Every expense is covered by every sale. And that's the first point you want to get to. Total expenses equals total revenues. And then I did give you a break-even template that is in the handouts that the Department of Business Affairs will send out. And then have you estimated your initial years of sales? And have you prepared a monthly cash flow? Cash flow can be very, very daunting for the beginning. I would say it was the hardest thing for all of my clients to figure out. But one of the secrets to doing a cash flow, and I've given you the template. By the way, both of these templates are in Excel, and break even and cash flow. Save them as the master. And then do your, break even 2.0, break even 3.0, so that if you make a mistake and you move a cell and now you've changed the formula, you can go back and look at the original. Same thing with cash flow, save the master and then start doing it. And one of the tricks with cash flow is start with it has on top all the revenues, all the money coming in, and then the bottom half is all the money going out. And what I learned is that it's much easier if you start with how much money is going out the door. So look at your cell phone bill and your rent bill and your electricity bill and your, I don't know, shipping bill expenses, etc. Look at all your insurance expenses. Look at all your expenses first and then back into your sales. And then you can see, oh my God, I need to sell more, or I need to make it less expensive, or what you need to do, because you have to test for reasonableness. Is it reasonable? Can I sell? I once had a man who wanted to open up a store. It was gourmet candy, really gourmet candy, like above Godiva. And I told him it was nuts. He had to sell a box of candy every minute of every hour the store was open, and he wasn't going to do it maybe at, Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. It was nuts. So look at, expenses and then back in and test for reasonableness if you can sell as much as you need to cover expenses. Does your business have special seasonality? All businesses do. I'm going to try to wrap up. We're almost at the end. Almost all businesses do. Lawn care businesses, which I love. It has summer, winter, spring, fall, flowers and grass and leaves raking and snow removal, and fall is leaves. But there's a fifth season too if you're a lawn care specialist. Christmas decoration, because you'd be surprised how many seniors and businesses are willing to pay for. You put up the decorations and you take them down. But also candy, Halloween candy that we're going to see as soon as it's Labor Day. They start making it maybe late May, early June, so that it's ready to all ship out the doors. You ever notice in August it ships out, and as soon as Labor Day, the Tuesday after Labor Day, all of a sudden it's Halloween everywhere. So bathing suits have seasonality. Not only is it the summer, but then there's the season for the people that go to warm climates and they go to Arizona and Florida and California. And then how much does it cost to open or expand your business? So you really have to get those together. By the way, if you are renting, leasing a business spot, it is more economical for you to pay more rent and have the landlord do the build out than for you to get all the contractors and do the build out. Because if you do the build out, the entire amount of the build out is amortized over 25 and a half years, and you might outgrow that space before 25 and a half years. So you leave money on the table. if you get the landlord to do it, and you may not be able to, but you might be if it's not too expensive, if you just need carpeting and the walls painted and some electricity, more outlets added. If the landlord does it and he charges you more rent, rent is fully deductible. So you don't have to amortize it. So if you only stay in that spot 5 years, you're not leaving money on the table versus the 25 and a half years that you amortize the build out over. What are your monthly expenses? You know what you need for the business, but also for you personally to live. Do you have a nest egg or a working spouse, which I really hope you do, so they provide you with insurance and other things you need? How much money can you invest? And is there support from family members? I don't recommend support from family members because if anything goes south, it really makes Christmas and Thanksgiving god awful. So I don't recommend it. But you might have to take a small loan from a friendly brother or father-in-law. Do you have collateral for a traditional lending source? If you do that special program through the Department of Business Fairs, you are eligible to apply for a small loan from a bank. So that might be a good route to go. Can you get financing terms from your vendors? Financing is instead of paying the net amount in 30 days, you ask them when you first start, can you pay in 60 or 75 days? That way you're using their money for 75 days. Can you get a cosigner for a loan? Because you might need it. This is the real number to get a free credit report, not from Dancing Men. You don't see the Dancing Men anymore. But and how you should know if you are taking out a real loan, how the loan proceeds are going to be applied. Are you going to use it for rent? Are you going to use it for build out? Are you going to use it for merchandise, inventory, hiring people? Most credit cards now, Chase and Bank of America and all the big ones, have some version of their credit card where you do get a free credit score. So I strongly recommend those because to get a good loan rate, you sort of need at least a 660 for an SBA loan and about a 720 if you get a bank loan. But really, SBA loans are the best way to go. They have special loans under $50,000. And it's easier than going to one of the big banks. SMART goals, measurable goals and objectives. Make sure that they are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time related. You should include in your business plan 1 year and 3 year goals. State specific measurable objectives. Get, $10,000 a month in sales by, every month starting after month 4. Market share or revenue, will make on average for the month, 25% profit. The bigger the profitability, the easier it is to make a business a success. Grocery stores are very, very hard because they work on slim margins. It's about 1 or 2 pennies out of every dollar you spend in a grocery store as profit. And this is me. This is how to find me. And if you write me and I don't answer you in 48 hours, please write a second time. Because I try to keep up with emails, but I'm semi-retired, so sometimes not so much. And that's it. And now we're ready for questions.
We do have a few questions.
All right, let me see if I can find the questions I have to figure out. Not that one. Oh, there, now I see them. Okay, and that's me. And I'm sorry, but I'm in my bedroom because my husband got the office because he used to work from home before I retired. All right, so where are the questions?
Click the chat box. You have questions in both the chat and the Q&A box.
Okay, here's the chat. Oh, no, that just went. A host and participants. Sorry, is this? I do not see them. Oh, Q&A. All right. Will you have a recording of this meeting? Yes, I gave them permission to tape record me. What segments what the segment, the first, the primary target audience, say if it was makeup, it would probably be women, say 16 to 25, and the next group would be women 26 to 34, and then 35 to 50, and then you're sort of in my group, 51 to, you're not in the grave yet, because makeup isn't as important as you age. So the primary segment is the heaviest user. And then does the business model canvas no, it doesn't. It's just to help you. The business model canvas is only to help you organize your thoughts. A bank will not go for it for the full, nah, they want to see. And the business plan doesn't have to be 1,000 pages. Once you see the template that I have given the Department of Business Affairs, it can be 5 pages, it can be 9 pages, say what you need to say to answer the questions thoroughly. But it doesn't have to, I used to have to sometimes read 80, 100 pages. It was the same stuff repeated 1,000 times. So it does not have to be, just answer the questions in complete sentences. Is there a way to make the main screen pin? Oh, that I don't know. Beyond my skill set about how to see me and them, but now you see me. And then, do we have access to the slides? Yes, they will send you. I gave them permission to send out the slides. Hard to read. Sorry about that. Oh, not AQ, rather a comment. Oh, the chat is disabled. Don't know how to, beyond my skill set. Maybe is the chat still disabled? Because I found it. It's got a little place where you put in Q&A. I think you have to use Q&A and not chat so much. Oh, they're all saying we lost audio. Sorry about that. There's no audio, no audio. How can I access the handouts will all be sent to you. If you registered for this lecture, they automatically get sent to you. It takes a few days, but they will send them to you. The Department of Business Affairs send them out. I don't, but they have them all. Oh, I don't know. Stella, you have to answer. How quickly is this webinar posted after it's over? Don't
It's
know.
posted within 24 hours. It'll be on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Chicago BACP.
Great. And will the business plan help with an SBA loan application? Absolutely, because you have to have a business plan to get an SBA loan. They have special loans called express loans. They're under $50,000, and they're really very, very helpful. You can prepay them. So say the business really takes off and you want to get a bigger loan, but you can only have one SBA loan out at a time. You can pay, it's sort of like a mortgage. You can pay it off early and then apply for another bigger loan. So I strongly recommend SBA loans and work with people who specialize in them. And a lot of the big banks, they only want to do it if it's, $1 million or more. So do not go to in my opinion, do not go to the giant banks, because all they're going to do is give you a runaround and look at your credit score. And every time somebody opens up your credit score, it dings it at least 5 points. So, and women, and I'm a woman, so I can attest to this. Men usually have 2 or 3 credit cards, like a Visa, MasterCard, maybe an American Express, a Diners Club, whatever. Women, they have a Kohl's card, they have a Macy's card, they have, you name it, they've got it. A Nordstrom card, a Bloomie's card. Every time you apply for credit, they ding your score 5 points. Now, if you have good credit, you can make it up in about 90 days. If you have not such good credit, it takes longer. And if you apply for 4 different bank loans, you're going to be down 20 points and you haven't even gotten anywhere. So look for a bank that specializes in SBA loans. And The bank that BACP works with might be one of them. Yes, you get a presentation, you get all the handouts. Oh, what's the difference between a bookkeeper and a CPA? Oh, a ton of money. So a bookkeeper is somebody who's very accomplished and knows the difference between a debit and the credit, and they know how to post expenses and they know how to post prepaid expenses, and they're way more affordable. I actually worked with a woman who started a business and she just did bookkeeping, and basically they know how to close out the books at the end of the month. But a CPA is one who knows all the tax nonsense, how do you pay the least amount of taxes and you're still on this side of the law, and really, will go with you with court, and they had to sit and take a special test, and they're licensed by the state of Illinois. So it's a much higher level, you know, if you can get away with it for the small, like for the day-to-day operations, you can probably use a bookkeeper, but you do need a CPA for either a quarterly, semi-annually, and definitely the annual part of the, now I'm seeing questions in the chat too. I missed the screen after the reset. Is there any way for me to see the slide again? Yeah, you'll get all the slides, so they're there. Shall I ask questions about this? Any loss? If you have say you sell, you're an architect and you design the plans and they give you a deposit, by the way, always take a deposit if you can, and then you deliver the plans, you don't really have anything to lose, there's nothing to steal. It's not like you're selling goods that can walk out the door. Same thing if you're an accountant. They can't really take away the knowledge to how to close the books or do your taxes. So not everybody, if the questions in the business plan template don't apply, just skip over them, and they may not, like I said. You may have a service and not have to talk much about packaging. Just say that when, if you're a gutter cleaning business, that when people go to clean the gutter, so give you an estimates, they all wear green shirts with a Gutter Galley logo on them and a phone number and a website. Thank you, thank you. The templates are all available, and because I love you so, the ones that use Excel are all in live Excel, so you can really use them, because that was always daunting for clients. My contact information is on the last page of the slide. It is DX Rockin, ROCKIN, @gmail.com. Make sure you put the X in, because when I finally got a Gmail account, D Rockin was taken. So my middle name is not, I don't even know what it would be as a woman. It would be Xavier if I was a man, but it's just made up. It's DX Rockin. A film production business. I don't know of anybody. You might be able to look for grants, Google grants all over, because there might be nonprofits that give you grants. Somebody started it. I went to a small coeducational college in Southwest Illinois, and a friend actually had an archery scholarship because somebody left money and they liked archery. So Google grants, because you might actually find something. You only present the business plan. It's your own roadmap for you and any investors, including the banker, if you want to get a loan. Yes, you'll be able to access the presentation. The best way to validate your target market is you could do a focus group, but you can also talk to your friends and, sort of ask questions of people or, at the gym, whatever. Like, is it something that they would use? And, you can sort of guess their age. And like I said, no matter how cheap a barbecue is or a electric lawnmower, don't need one. You can get all the templates. The biggest mistake new entrepreneurs make is they underestimate the amount of time it takes to open and the expense and the length of the sales cycle. Oh, this is interesting. The person who wants to open up the boxing gym. You, there's a thing called the B Corporation. I don't know that much about it, but it allows you to do some community good, but you can still make a profit. So you really need a good accountant who's well versed in setting up a business, but it's you can Google it, it's a B corporation. And otherwise you might just need a regular business and you just subtract the amount of all the money, if each class would have been $25 for each kid who attends and you educate 100 kids, then it's 100 kids times $25, and that's what you subtract as your charitable donation. Ooh, any advice taking out a massive loan? Yeah, don't do it. Oh, it would get very hard to get it. If you want to start a hotel, you might start smaller with a B&B, where you buy a home in a good neighborhood and you give people breakfast and there's 8 or 10 rooms, and then you can prove that you can run a hotel, and then you might be able to look for investors is my best advice. um they come through email, the handouts. The getting the grants, you have to see, sometimes there are grants, there's money sometimes from the city of Chicago based on if you are hiring people to work for the company. Sometimes there are grants, sometimes there are TIF projects where you put in some money and the neighborhood matches you 50 or 75 cents for every dollar. So you can look for they're called TIF grants, and the other ones are from the city of Chicago. The resources, not sure I understand this. And if you write me more about it, I'll, try to help you. Chat is now open. What is the name of the bank you mentioned? What's the name of the bank that um Business Affairs uses? Is it CIPB? They changed their name a few times, but
CIBC Bank.
what is it?
CIBC Bank.
CIBC. So that's the one. Okay. Um, if you want to start an event, it's sort of the same thing. Yes. I recommend that a business plan be the amount, the length that you need to convey all the knowledge. Um, you should see if you have investors, but they might be a chicken and the egg where they want to see you have a legitimate business before they give you money, and you want the money before you bother to incorporate. So it might be a chicken and egg process. That was for anonymous. And then, oh, I don't, many plans were very successful in launcher funding, but they were all proprietary. I can't share them. You get the business plan template. Yes, you do. How do you get credit for attending this class? At the end, Stella will tell you exactly how to do it. For a real estate with multiple partners, I would say talk to an attorney or an accountant. You probably want an LLC, a limited liability corporation. The best way to test the market for a food business is, let me see, wait, let me go back to the beginning. I just realized I didn't start at the beginning. Hold on. Uh, where do you need to present a business plan? Usually to any investor, whether it's a bank or your father-in-law, any investor. How long should we keep our original? I don't know your original plans till you replace them. So if you're doing a business plan and then you update it in 18 months, you can keep it for historical value and then go buy the new plan. for getting grants for your business, you should just Google to see what's out there and what's around, because sometimes there are in there some unusual, funders. They all have specific rules. You will not get a grant if it's not in their grant guidelines. Like if you get money from like the Polk Brothers Foundation, it has to be educational. It has to be for residents of the Chicagoland. It can't be outside of Chicago. So they all have specific rules. Here's a good thing. Yvette writes, where do you get recommendations to get assistance with an SBA loan? A very free service in the state of Illinois and around America is called a Small Business Development Center, SBDC. I think it's .gov. Google Small Business Development Center, and you'll find one that's near you. One is at 8 South Michigan. It's the Women's Business Development Center. Do not be fooled by its name. They serve everybody, not just women, but decades ago when they started, it was for women. But they're there, and there's some all over the city. There used to be one in Little Village. So just look for Small Business Development Center, and it's a free service. And if they do training, sometimes there's a nominal fee for training. Can someone place YouTube channel in comments? I don't know. Well, that's something, if you, Stella can write out the YouTube channel later. No, grants are not too common, but you might be able to find one. Do you charge to help people? I don't help them. I do charge. If you have a simple question, you get a freebie, but I'm mostly retired now. You saw how gray I was, or white. Gray would be good already. What books do you recommend? Interesting.
Miss Donna, we have like 2 minutes.
Yes, but I think I'm all right. What is the most common mistakes? I said they underestimate the amount of time to launch and to get sales. There might be good things. There might be entrepreneurship lectures at community colleges. So look for them, because beginning business 101. There's no number of pages to recommend for a business plan. It is what it is. Answer all the questions. I don't know of any free help. Sometimes they have a sliding scale. They changed their name. It used to be the Community Law Project, and they changed their name. But if you put in Community Law Project, the new name I just can't remember it. It's a lot more words than what it is. And sometimes they have a sliding scale where they have lawyers and they help you get the LLC or whatever you need. Yes, good advice. Research your competition. And you're right, bad experience really spread like wildfire. I don't know. The best way is if there's no food business in that area for the type of food you want to start. Oh, and yes, they have special licensing education from BACP. An S corporation separates your business from your personal, so getting a mortgage and getting the business loan are apples and oranges. Thank you. Okay, that was it because I set a timer too. And I think we're done. Oh, good. All right, I'm done. Ooh, yay.
Thank you to Ms. Donna for today's presentations. Thank you for our ASL interpreters for today. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, your account will automatically reflect your attendance for today within 24 hours. Today's webinar was recorded and will be available within 24 hours on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. To learn more or join our Entrepreneur Certificate Program, please visit chicago.gov chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Again, that's chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, one and all. I enjoyed it.